So today we're going to talk about the Payment Protection Program. This program provides loans to small businesses, 1099 contractors, sole proprietors, and the money is coming from the U.S. government for COVID-19 coronavirus relief. These loans are on very good terms, and so we encourage especially companies in the trucking industry and the freight industry, such as trucking companies, owner-operators, 1099 contractors, brokers, dispatchers, anyone who is eligible for these loans to take a look at them because the terms are excellent. So as a quick summary of the PPP, this is part of the CARES Act, which was passed by Congress. The PPP is a $350 billion package. If you use the funds primarily for payroll, then the entire loan will be forgiven, which means you won't have to pay it back. And we're going to talk about this in more detail later on. You apply for this loan through your bank. So just go to the bank that you do business with and tell them that you want a PPP loan, and they will walk you through the process. These loans are first come, first serve. So once the funding runs out, that's it. So it's very important that you do this as soon as possible. And the situation and the rules are changing on a daily basis. So what I tell you today may not exactly be true tomorrow. Please talk to your bank, and they're going to have the most up-to-date information because they're the ones that are processing the loan. So what are the loan terms? The loan has a 1% interest rate, so that's a very low interest rate. The law says that they can change this up to 4%, but I think that's highly unlikely given how much people need these funds. If the loan is not forgiven, then you have to pay it back over the course of 2 years. However, you don't have to make payments for 6 months. There's no personal guarantee and there's no collateral. So this is pretty rare for loans. Again, you get the first 6 months, you don't need to make payments, you don't need to sign a personal guarantee, and you don't need to put anything up as collateral. So overall, these are excellent loan terms, even if they don't forgive the loan, and we're going to go into details about how you can get the loan forgiven. But I would definitely encourage you, if you need the funding, then definitely apply for this loan because the terms are so good. So how much can I get? So there's a couple different scenarios depending on what type of business you are, and we're going to try to go through each one. Now this, again, hasn't been made entirely clear by Congress how this works, so we tried our best to put that information together. When you talk to your bank, they'll provide some more clarity. In this situation, let's say you're a sole proprietor or you're a 1099 contractor. Like, let's say you're a driver and you get a 1099, or you run your trucking company as a sole proprietor. If that's the situation, then what you want to do is you want to take your total compensation that you received in 2019 up to $100,000. So that means that even if you got more than $100,000, you can only count up to $100,000. Divide that number by 12 and multiply that number by 2.5, and that's how much you can get as a loan. So let's do a quick example. Let's say that you received $150,000 as compensation in 2019. Now remember, we can only go up to $100,000. So divide that number by 12, 100,000 divided by 12, and multiply that by 2.5. In this case, that comes out to $20,833.33. And that's how much you can get. Now let's say you're a corporation, but you don't have any employees. Everyone who works for you is a 1099 contractor, and you take ownership draws out of the business. Now this is pretty common in trucking. So you'll have a trucking company, you set up a LLC, or you set up a S Corp, and you take ownership draws or payouts from the corporation. All your drivers are 1099 contractors. You're not going to look at how much you pay those contractors. You're only going to look at how much money you take out of the business. So in this case, you look at 2019, you say how much you received from the corporation, and you're going to divide that number by 12 and multiply that by 2.5. Again, you have a maximum of $100,000, and you do not count what you paid your 1099 contractors. So let's look at an example. Again, you took out $150,000 out of the business, and so the math is going to work the same way as the last example. You're going to be eligible for $20,833.33. Okay, last one. Let's say you're a corporation and you have employees. So you have people that you give W-2s for. In this case, you will include how much you pay all your employees, how much you've given out in W-2s, in addition to any ownership draws that you have. But remember, you can only include a maximum of $100,000 per employee and ownership draw. And then you take that total number, you divide it by 12, and you multiply it by 2.5. And that's how much you can borrow. So this loan is forgivable, which means that it may be that you don't have to pay it back. Now, under what conditions do you not have to pay it back? Now, these are where the rules get a little bit fuzzy, and they are changing. You can use if you use 75% of the funds on payroll to pay your employees, and you can use the rest of the 25% on other things. But if you use 75% on your employees, then this loan can be forgiven. And you also have to have the same number of employees and the same salary levels on June 30th as you did on February 15th. So they want to make sure that you haven't let people go and you haven't made reductions in their payroll. Now, what that means for a 1099 contractor, what that means for a sole proprietor or a company that does not have employees that just take ownership draws, I don't know how you calculate that 75%, because how do they define payroll? So that is still a little bit fuzzy. It hasn't been made clear to me. I haven't seen it written down anywhere exactly. So if you do have W-2 employees and you spend 75% of those funds on paying those employees and you keep them on the payroll and you don't reduce their salary, then you can get 100% of this loan forgiven. The remaining 25%, they'd like for you to spend it on mortgage interest, and you can use that on equipment financing like your truck or your trailer or whatever else assets you have for your business. You use it on rent for your office, utility payments for your office, things like that. Now, are you required to only use it on those things? You should ask your bank that, and because I've seen it written both ways, that you can spend it on anything or you have to spend it on these things. Now, even if it isn't forgiven, this is still a good loan. It's a low interest rate. It has very good payback terms. You can defer your payments. There's no collateral. There's no personal guarantee. So these are excellent terms to get a loan. So I would still say, hey, see if you can get the loan. If you need it, if you need to invest in your business or invest in keeping people on salary, then I think you should definitely do that. Now, who qualifies? Any LLC, S Corp, C Corp that does not have more than 500 employees qualifies for this program. And again, employees are defined as people that get a W-2. Also, if you are a sole proprietor or a 1099 contractor, which means you could be a 1099 contractor and drive a truck or an Uber or a taxi cab, you can still apply for this program and get this loan. You have to have been in business since at least January 31st. So if you incorporated and came into business after January 31st, then you would not be eligible. But any small business, any 1099 contractor, any sole proprietor is eligible for this program. How do you apply? So contact your bank ASAP. The bank that you do business with, that you have your business accounts with, that's probably your best bet. You can also contact local community banks in your area and see if they're doing these loans, and if they're only working with their clients or if they're working with outside clients as well. Different banks do it differently. Some of the big banks have already stopped taking applications, so please call ahead, see if they're still doing it, talk to them, and take all your documentation and try to apply right away. This is first come, first serve. Once the funds dry up and there's no more, then you're out of luck. Hopefully they'll be passing more programs and putting more money into stuff like this, but as of right now, it's just this much money. And what documents do you want to bring to the bank? You want to bring all your 1099s if you're a 1099 contractor or a sole proprietor. You want to bring your corporation documents if you're an LLC or a S Corp, C Corp. Bring your tax filings for 2019 if you've done them, or 2018. Bring your bank statements, bring your W-2s and 941s that you've given out to employees, and the 941s that you have per quarter to show how much you paid out. Take all this documentation with you, take it to the bank, and work with them to figure out how much you qualify for, how it can be forgiven. That's key. Ask them this question. Get some clarity on that. and then apply for it as soon as possible. Now, this video was brought to you by Bobtail. We provide cash flow, factoring, and fuel card services for trucking companies all over the U.S. You can check us out at www.bobtail.com. Please give us a call if you have any questions about this or any other program right now. You can email us at hello@bobtail.com. You can call us at 410-204-2084. Again, that's 410-204-2084. Any questions you have, let us know and we'll try to help you out as much as we can. Thank you.